Good day everyone. Today we will tackle about the pre-hispanic sources material for the study of Philippine history by William Henry Scott. First, we will analyze the source materials which claim to be about the study of Philippine history. These are the following sources: Maragtas, Code of Panlitao, Povedano Manuscript, and Pabon Manuscript.
We will also discuss the contribution of Jose E. Marco in the Philippine historiography. And lastly, what is known to the Filipino people before the Spaniards arrived in 1952 and is from pre-Hispanic source materials. First is Maragtas.
Maragtas. It is the history of Panay. It was written by Pedro A. Monteclaro. According to the author, the Maragtas is based from the two manuscripts he found, not just his imagination. The first manuscript is from an 82-year-old man from Istan that had been a teacher from his town, which is past until reached him. Other manuscript, he found it in a bamboo chip where his grandfather kept his old papers. The Maragtas is all about the history of Panay from the first inhabitants of Bornean. These Bornean immigrants are datus. When we say datus, highest rank in the society before the arrival of Spaniards. The 10 datus chiefs are the following: Datu Puti, Datu Sumakwel, Datu Bangkaya, Datu Palborong, Datu Padayonog, Datu Dumalugdog, Datu Dumangsol, Datu Lubay, Datu Valenzuela, and Datu Umangsil.
The Maragtas consists of 6 chapters and an epilogue. The first chapter is about former customs, clothes, dialect, heredity, organization of Panay, with special mention of Maricutson of Old Chief Palpula. Second chapter is about 10 datus fight from Borneo and escape. Datu Makatunaw and 10 datus purchased the island of Panay from Maricudo. Third chapter is about the romance of Sumakwel, Kapingan, and her lover Gurung Guru. The fourth chapter is about the tale of 10 datus telling of their political arrangement and their circumnavigation of the island. The fifth chapter is about language, commerce, clothing, customs, marriage, funerals, mourning habits, cockfighting, timekeeping techniques, calendars, and personal characteristics. The last chapter is about the list of Spanish officials between 1637 and 1808. The epilogue is few 18th century dates from Yag-Aw.
In the history of First Datu in chapter 2 and 3 of the Maragtas, it is deeper from the rest of the book because it is narrative and the content appears earlier source which translated by Tomas Santeren. Father Tomas Santeren. He published Historia los primeros datos provenientes de Borneo, poblaron estas islas. Or in English, the history of the first datus coming from Borneo populated the island. The chapter 2 and 3 in Maragtas pick up the same events, inserting no real historic data. The difference between Maragtas and Historia. The Maragtas introduces new characters with necessary biographical identification, cites municipality and province apparent contradiction in the name of the original settlement. Lastly, the style of Maragtas is imaginative passage, while in Historia, often mention their names after they played some part in narrative, presupposes the reader's prior knowledge of the places. Its style is simple statement. According to the historians that Maragtas is not considered as containing facts which are not accurate and true, because many of these data do not talks with what we hear from men. No information is given about the language of the original or condition of manuscript. Lastly, Maragtas gives no reasonable ground for supporting the existence of the pre-Hispanic Confederation of Madiyas. When we say Confederation of Madiyas, it is the 7 resolution adopted by the 7 datus as kind of political constitution, written by Datu Sumakwel.
Next is the Maragtas Code. The Visayans set up a form of government for mutual protection and prosperity. Dato Sumakwel, who was regarded chief of the entire island of Panay, was assisted by four subordinates, Lubay, Padukinog, Dumalogdog, and Dumangsol. As chief of the Datos and head of the district, Dato Sumakwel was empowered to improve penalties and execute order in the whole island. It has a four stringent sanction that imposed by Dato Sumakwel to the island of Panay and to the people. First, the lazy person shall be arrested and sold to rich family to serve as a slave, as value of work in the house and in the fields. Number 2, polygamy was practiced until population control became necessary. It was restricted and the children of those too poor to support them were drowned. Number 3, under dream, adultery was punished by a death of disinheritance. Number 4, finger of thieves were cut off. The Maragtas is known as the oldest written body of laws in the Philippines.
Next is the Code of Kalanchaw. It is Jose Marco and Jose Maria Pavon, Antiquas Leyendas is the source of Code of Kalanchaw. The Code of Kalanchaw was composed a legal code of the epic history of Maragtas. It is said to have been written by Dato Kalanchaw in 1933, a chief of Island of Negros. The code itself contained 5 manuscripts made by the library in 1914, which received from Mr. Jose E. Marco of Pontevedra in Negros Occidental. These are the following manuscripts: 1. Historia de la Isla de Negros. 2. Map of Negros. 3. La Anticas Leyendas de la Isla de Negros. 4. Brujevasi Los Cuentas de Fantasmas. And the last, Los Cuentos de los Indios de esta Isla de Negros. The code is now believed by many historians to have been hoax, and it had actually been written in 1913 by Jose E. Marco as a part of his historical fiction class Anticas Leyendas de la Isla de Negros, or in English, The Asian Legend of Island of Negros.
Next, we will talk about the Fabedano manuscript. The Fabedano manuscript consists of 4. First, the Fabedano manuscript of 1572. Second, the Fabedano manuscript of 1572 map of Negros. Third, the Fabedano manuscript of 1578. And the last, the Fabedano manuscript of 1577 and 1579. These are the content of the manuscript. First, Fabedano manuscript of 1572. The Povedano manuscript is all about the La Isla de Negros, or the island of Negros ethnography. This consists the following. 17 pages is the legends about the origin of the word and places names. 14 pages is about marriage of customs, religion, and calendars. 10 pages is age description of Visayan alphabet. And the last is the reference section called on how they worship their false gods called Kabunyan. According to the historians, the orthography of the document is rather inconsistent. The calendar is difficult to read. Ang kalendaryo ay isang sistema ng pag-aayos ng mga araw. Ginagawa ito sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay ng mga pangalan sa mga yugto ng panahon, karaniwang mga araw, linggo, buwan at taon. Ang petsa ay ang pagtatalaga ng isang sulong tiyak na araw sa loob ng naturang sistema. Ang kalendaryo ay isa ring pisikal na talaan, kadalasang papel na naturiang sistema. Ang isang kalendaryo ay maaari ring mga hulugan ng isang listahan ng mga nakaplanong kaganapan, tulad ng isang kalendaryo ng hukuman o isang bahagi o ganap na magkakasundo na listahan ng mga dokumento, tulad ng isang kalendaryo ng mga testamento.
Next, the Povedano map of Negros 1572. It is the original map that was drawn on parchment. It is considered as the very old map of Negros. Next, the map of Negros. It is a geographical map which describes the voyage of Diego Lope Povedano of Buglas Island and shores for for His Majesty the King of Spain. In a map of Negros, there is a picture of scale which called Lewanina. It means a mile in medieval British. Next manuscript that will be tackled is the Povedano manuscript of 1578. It is written on 123 leaves with measurement of 21 by 32 centimeters. It is a modern manufacture which combines features of Gothic, Roman type, and Italian Renaissance calligraphy. According to historians, the manuscript of 1578 confuses F and S, which shows no similarity to the other Povedano manuscript. The title page gives a signature unlike the 1572 document. And the last Povedano manuscript is the 1577 and 1579. According to Garcia, the contents of manuscript display so many anachronisms that readers have seriously been considered as authentic.
The last source materials for the study of Philippine history is the Pavon manuscript. The Pavon manuscript, it is about the Las Antiguas Leyendas de la Isla de Negros, or in English, the old legend of the island of Negros, and Los Cuentos de los Indios de esta isla, or in English, the story of the native island. It consists 25 chapters of legends and myths, 11 superstitious current in Pavon Day, 26 straightforward ethnographic natures such as weapons and Philippine alphabet, a native calendar and translation of 10 documents written in a personalized style of considerable charm, moralizing the Christian and proposed knowledge of oral and written sources, and lastly, 25 different information on dates between 1830 and 1840. The Pavon manuscript devoted to ethnographic matter such as food, medicine, religious beliefs, funerals, rites, mourning customs, law, farming, fishing, and many others. It summarizes a variety anthropological data, truly and concisely any other Spanish document. It includes unique and valuable data description of jar burial, bone washing, ceremonies, and a huge plantation of tobacco.
Among the documents translated with pre-Hispanic dates, these 6 documents present examination of Jose E. Marco to the contribution of Philippine historiography, namely 1137 accounts of old forts, 1239 narrative of King Maranhig, 1372 description of burial customs, 1372 list of extinct animals, 1433 Code of Kalansiaw, the 1489 making talismans and charms. According to historians, Pavon manuscript, it shows inappropriate title. 15 other documents are highly suspicious. The Visayan alphabet given by Pavon contains the same errors. The form of the characters are more likely by Povedano than any other Philippine script. Next is the anachronism of the text of Pavon manuscript. The author prays for the preservation of the King of Spain on June 24, 1838, and dedicates a book to him on August 1, 1839, although Spain had no king between 1833 and 1874. Next, the author expresses his gratitude on January 14, 1848 to Don Morqueco, the same gentleman named as attesting to the discovery of Povedano 1572 map on March 23, 1833. The author presents a document signed by Francisco Deza on March 31 of the year 14. Deza was born in 1620, so if the year 14 is a standard contradiction for 1714. The author refers to an ancient fortress located on the seashore next to the barrio occupied by the Morteses and Yo, about 20 leguas north of this town. The author refers to the great and extinct Lemurian content. In the Pavon description of the calendar, the author makes the following statement about the month of November. They called it a bad map, but Pavon and Povedano manuscript have an issue on orthography, like the use of C and Q employed in Spanish accounts. Pavon and Povedano manuscripts had no C, O, or R. They used the letter K instead of C. There are even more confusing issues regarding to the two manuscripts, and it is the anachronism. Conclude, based on William Henry Scott, the Maragtas, Code of Kalansiao, Povedano manuscript, and Pavon manuscript are Hawke's documents in his full pre-Hispanic source materials for the study of Philippine history, because the manuscripts or documents are inconsistent and they present no historic data. The contribution of Jose E. Marco to the Philippine historiography was a real masterpiece of fantasy, because his document appeared to be deliberate fabrications with no historic validity. This is actually the history of Philippines about the Filipino people before the Spaniards arrived in 1521, and this is pre-Hispanic source materials. 500,000 years ago, men of species are called Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens, they live in caves like Palawan and Batangas. As early as 400,000 BC, early men of species are called Homo erectus. They live in Cagayan Valley together with the extinct animal and species. In 5,000 years of pre-Christian, they called it Stone Age Filipino because Filipinos know how to use weapons made by stone, and they occupy the major islands like Zamboanga, Davao, Negros, Samar, Batangas, Laguna, Rizal, Bulacan, Cagayan Valley, and Palanan Bay. The language they use are the Austronesian. 5th millennium BC, Austronesian language was replaced. 3rd millennium BC, Filipino people produced ornaments, pottery, and several types of decoration. During the last pre-Christian millennium, Filipinos are excellent potters and wore local and imported jewelry. 3rd century BC, Filipinos know how to cast iron and bronze. And in the beginning of the Christian era, Filipinos know how to weave their own clothes, melting iron, and making glass ornaments. In the next 1,000 years, Filipinos occupied the interior mountains like Ifugao in Cordillera. They make pottery, exquisite gold work, and furnitures, and they import beads and porcelain and many others. In the 10th century, countries are both trading. First calendar in the Philippine history was released. 11th century, Saribata Shaha sent tribute mission to China. In the end of 12th century, Visayan Sea Raiders attacked the Phuket coast. In 13th century, Mindoro, Butuan, and Sulu were Bornean outposts. Chinese merchantmen transferred their goods to Philippine shipping. In this century, Tausug migrated Butuan to Holo. 14th century, Sulu made attack on Borneo. Mindoro cloth traded on west coast of Malaysia. Hindu and Buddhist influenced Philippine religions. Luzon sent tribute mission to China. Both Mindoro and Sulu are trading center in the Philippine tropical products. 15th century, Pangasinan and Luzon sent tribute mission to China. Mindoro sent a Muslim envoy. Chinese minister visited Mindoro to organize trade and tribute mission. Sharif ul Hashim Abu Bakr became the first dato in Sulu. 1521 is the arrival of Magellan to the Philippines. And that is all pre-Hispanic source materials for the study of Philippine history by William Henry Scott.